And Mark, let's end the podcast doing what we do each and every week. And the one thing I'm going to ask you, I want to ask your opinion on this because I watched a video that was like about politicians and stuff. About
As
what
you
they
do the Obama point.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So this is what I was thinking. They were saying pointing like this is too aggressive. And I point a lot like this at them.
That's a customer service thing.
Is it too aggressive that I point at the viewers with my index finger, or should I do the Obama point and point with my thumb like this? Like
you can do the Disney, which is just open hands.
I do that sometimes. I do like the welcome in. Sometimes I do like I angle it weird, and Dave goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's not turn that all the way around because we don't want to get the wrong impression for that. I'm a little self-conscious that maybe the one finger point might be too aggressive to the viewers watching us on YouTube.
This is sports. I think they want it to be aggressive.
They want aggressive. They want hot takes. They want aggressive conversation. And they want us to kill each other at the end of the conversation.
Tom Brady's the worst quarterback I've ever seen play the game. Also, fuck the Packers.
But we're making our picks for Week 17 just to give you guys a heads up for the loyal listeners and viewers that watch it. There won't be a pick segment like this next week. We're just going to do our playoff predictions at the end of the podcast. And those picks will be in those predictions.
That's how it works.
So we're just going to combine them and do it that way. But let's start game numero uno. The Dolphins, the Bills, 12 o'clock start. Bills are a 4.5-point favorite. This game means nothing for the playoffs. Who you got, Dolphins or Bills?
Or really to much of anybody.
Well, I mean, draft-wise.
This might be the only game this year where I'm going to pick the Bills. I am going to pick the Bills on this one because, Miami's got to travel. They got to go all the way to Buffalo. Josh Allen using those legs, he's actually looked pretty good when he's running around. Unfortunately, there's questions on sustainability with things like that. But hey, you know what? Right now it's working, so that's okay. And I'm gonna go with the Bills.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bills as well. I know the Dolphins beat them earlier in the year, but looking where these two have been the last few weeks.
And Ryan Tannehill might not even play.
Well, and the Dolphins have only put up 17 points. And I think this could be like a 20-17, 17-14 game. A real bad game, but a close game. So I'll go with the Bills to get the win at home. Then the next one, another game that means nothing for the playoff standings, but could affect the draft seedings going into our next mock,
and
which will be the week of January 15th will be the next one that we do.
Not a bad day.
Lions at Green Bay. Green Bay's a 7.5-point favorite. Who you got?
I'm going to roll with Green Bay on this one. I mean, Detroit's been bad this year. And even though this game means nothing to the Packers, and Packers fans should be hoping that Aaron doesn't play.
Is Aaron Rodgers going to throw more than 2 picks this season? If he plays, does he throw a pick in this game?
Well, he's not playing the Bears, so no, he probably won't.
Because the Bears have those 2 picks.
He only throws interceptions for the Bears, I guess. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to really pick Detroit at Green Bay here.
Yeah, usually when it's the Lions in Green Bay, put your money on Green Bay because Aaron Rodgers will find a way, if he does play, will find a way to beat the Lions, even if it's a Hail Mary.
Backup Green Bay Packers quarterbacks tend to beat the Lions.
Yeah, so I mean, is that a throwback to
Flynn?
To 7-year Flynn? Didn't he get a 7-year contract after?
I don't know if it was a 7-year, but man, did he get paid only
from
to
the
sit
Raiders,
on the bench?
Right? The Raiders gave him that contract. Oh, that's right. It was the Seahawks that gave him that contract.
And that's when Russell Wilson showed up.
Yeah, that was week 17.
He lost his job to Russell Wilson.
So expect a big game from Deshaun Kaiser if he does play. Then we've got one that really, again, doesn't mean anything because scratch that. It could mean something for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Because the seedings are not locked in the AFC, where right now the Patriots have the 2nd overall seed.
And they want to keep that.
Lock that up and could potentially get if the Chiefs lose, the Chiefs would have the number 1 overall seed, or the Chargers would. No, the Chargers would too. So, I mean, depending on how it works out, they could maybe get the home field advantage. But I'm taking the Patriots to beat the Jets because the Jets, not the Jeffs, the Jets, because there's even rumors that I'm seeing that Todd Bowles could be losing his job after this game. Yeah. And Black Monday could be a bad one for Todd Bowles.
Yeah, I mean, these have all been pretty easy ones. I mean, New England's a big favorite here. They need to keep this second round bye. So they got to win this one.
Now, I thought this next one was going to mean a little bit more, but Cam Newton's not playing. He's been shut down for the year.
Yep.
The Saints have locked up number 1 overall. First off, do the Saints play their starters? And number 2, if those starters do not play, do the Panthers win on the road? I'm going no, because the Panthers don't play well on the road. I'll get the Saints with the win, with or without Drew.
Yeah, I actually don't think Drew Brees is probably going to play on this one, but Teddy Bridgewater wants to go out there and earn himself a job.
They are playing. I saw that because I sent it to our fantasy group. Teddy Bridgewater is playing.
Yeah, he wants to make sure he gets a good deal. This is his audition. So he's going to go out there and play like it's his Super Bowl, and essentially is, if he wants to revive his career. So, yeah, New Orleans Saints, Teddy Two Gloves, goes ahead and does it well. And it's funny because the two-glove thing, this is the perfect place for him if he was in New Orleans because he never has to wear a glove again.
Yeah, but he still wears the gloves.
Yeah, well, he had to make a decision.
Well, it's a comfort thing. Remember that. He took the gloves off and he got real uncomfortable at his pro day or something.
It's like Mitch with the sleeve. He had a good game with the sleeve. He's not allowed to take the damn sleeve off. He has to shower with the damn thing on.
Then the next one means literally nothing for the Cowboys. For the Giants, could affect their draft stock. But we've got the Cowboys at New York. Yep. I'm actually going to go with the shocker on this one. I'm taking the Giants to win in Dallas because I don't think Dallas is going to go super hard balls to the wall. And the Giants played well against the Colts. So they're going to upend the Cowboys in Week 17.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you say that. And when you call it the upset, I think that it's obvious that the New York Giants should win this game. Because, once again, Dallas doesn't have much to play for.
Eli's last hurrah?
He wants to play well, but Eli's kind of earned himself another year in New York with the end of this season.
I saw an article on ESPN where it kind of made it seem like Eli knows that the end is coming.
Oh, I'm sure he does. He's an old quarterback. And they need to move on at some point. But he might have earned himself another year, or at the very least is putting on good tape. But, you know, this New York Giants team has been looking really good. I mean, I don't know about really good, but they've been looking good enough.
Better than the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and you know what? They've got a new coach. It took a while for things to gel. They're finally starting to get things together.
Yeah, maybe Pat Shermer's not that bad of a head coach, Mark.
Or maybe he will be a bad head coach. We'll find out. There's still time to tell.
It was the Browns and not Pat Shermer.
I don't know about that. So, yeah, I got to go with the New York Giants.
Yet another game, though, and I hate to say this because fan bases of these teams are going to get pissed when I say this, but another game that means nothing when it comes to the playoffs. We've got the Falcons and Buccaneers. However, this is a draft pick game. I am going to go with the Falcons, the 1.5 point favorite, to get the win in Tampa over the dysfunctional Buccaneers.
And I'm actually going to roll with the Buccaneers. I think that players on the Buccaneers have a little bit more to play for than the Atlanta Falcons do, and coaches have more to play for in Tampa. Everybody's playing for their jobs.
Quinn's not getting fired.
Yeah, people need
Matt
to
Ryan's not going to get
their
traded.
Jobs. And Jameis Winston's another one of those. If he does not do well, and I'm assuming Jameis Winston's playing this, then yeah, exactly. He's gone. Fitzpatrick knows he's out of here next year. He's going to yet another stop in the journeyman's journey. But Jameis Winston does not want to start
him and just give him the job full term.
Jameis Winston does not want to start that journey, so he wants to do well to stick around in Tampa Bay.
Then this next one does in fact affect the playoff or the seedings for the playoffs. You got Houston, you've got the Jaguars, and really with Houston, I mentioned earlier, they have not locked up their division yet. They have not. They could lose and virtually lose their division to either the Colts or the Titans. I am going to roll with Houston in this one at home to get the win over Jacksonville. I just think Houston, they've been playing hot as of late. They're a good team, and I don't think Jacksonville has enough to beat them. But, however, I've been surprised before. I mean, remember that 6-0 game that Jacksonville had against the Colts?
Yeah.
They could win this one in a play all like, hey, you know what, we're just going to go out there and play. But Blake Bortles is starting, and I don't like him compared to Deshaun Watson. Texans are going to get the win.
But you know what? This one has a little bit of that upset feel to it, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Blake Bortles coming back. He wants to prove that this job can be his or he can go somewhere else and do it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of injuries for Jacksonville. Things have fallen apart. The team basically imploded, and Houston looks amazing. They've been looking great. A little bit of a stumble, but that's all right. They've been looking great still, and I'm going to go ahead and continue to agree with you, except for I think one game so far, and I'm going to roll with the Texans too.
Well, we're going to disagree on this next one. Faux show. We got the Bears at 11-4, still trying to play for a first-round bye, but they need some help from a team that we're going to look at a little bit later in this video. Then we also have the Minnesota Vikings, who need this win. If they win, they're in. If they lose, they could be out, barring what happens in the Philadelphia game. Minnesota is favored to win this one by 4.5. I know you're going to pick the Bears, but tell me why.
Yeah, and I mean, the home team is Minnesota, so they should have a little bit of a favor here. That first game, it was a tough game, but the Bears managed to squeak it out. This team is a better team than they were when they first played.
Yeah, we got a better offensive coordinator.
Well, that's very true as well. So there's a lot of things that are tough. But you know what Chicago has going for them, too, is, once again, this team is gelling more and more. This is a team that's starting to kind of get that offense, doing a little bit of what Matt Nagy wants it to do. Mitchell Trubisky needs to go out there again and show that, hey, I can do everything I need to do. You know, those 1 or 2 bad games I've had, that's not Mitch. This is Mitch. He needs to go out there and do it. With that being said, I am not going to be surprised if, like, the second quarter comes around and it's like, where'd Khalil Mack go? Oh, where did Allen Robinson go? And players just start disappearing.
Not the second quarter. I'll tell you how this one's going to play out. It's going to be a tough first half. It's going to be a good first half. Vikings will take the lead in the third quarter, and the Bears will start going, all right, we'll let you have it. We'll see you in Chicago. We'll see you in Chicago next week.
Yeah, but with that being said, Bears going to win this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota. This Minnesota team, it's the thing I find funny about this is the Bears and Packers have looked a little bit different. With the Bears, it's been the last game, and I know what Bears fans like Dave's are going to say, where it's like, oh, the 49ers always play us tough. You guys probably should have lost that game last week. I mean,
the 49ers game?
Yes, you made a good play, and Mullins made a bad decision. He should have just ran with it for the first down. But
I still think then the Bears would have still won that game.
You gave the 49ers a chance to win that game, whereas the Vikings, yes, I know it's the Dolphins. Yes, I know it's the Lions. We have looked completely like a different team offensively since we fired DeFilippo, which Dave gives me shit about because he's like, oh, you thought he was going to be the next head coaching candidate.
I think everybody
did.
Yeah.
Even in ones this year when we talked about Mike McCarthy. But one of the biggest surprises for us has been, I'm going to give you credit because you liked him in the draft process last year. Your boy out of Pitt, Brian O'Neill.
Yep.
He has turned into, originally drafted him. He's like, oh, he's a 2-year project. This year, oh, crap, he's a rookie surprise. He's a guy that's a standout right now as a rookie.
That's right.
And just throwing some love Mark's way because I know Mark liked Brian O'Neill. You like the first mock draft, I was like, who the hell is Brian O'Neill?
And now you know him very well.
Now I do because he's on my Minnesota Vikings. I think the Vikings win this one. Bears will pull the starters in the second half. They will concede the win to the Vikings in the second half, and we will do this all again in the wild card round in Chicago for week 18, technically, for the playoffs. Then we're going to go on another late afternoon game. This one, the Chargers have locked up the playoffs, but they need a win to ensure that they might be able to win the division and get a first-round bye. Chargers over the Broncos. I think this one's easy. Broncos are not going to... Yeah, it's in Mile High, so you give the Broncos a little bit of a chance, but this Bronco team is not going to beat this tough Charger team.
Yeah, and the Chargers got a lot to play for. They want to potentially win this division. So they definitely need everything they can. They should win this one for sure.
And then we've got, 3 more late afternoon ones? 4 more. 5 more. Wow, a lot late afternoon ones. We've got the Raiders and the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
I don't expect the Chiefs to lose this one, but I've been surprised before.
Chiefs.
Chiefs with the win in Arrowhead. Then we've got Rams and 49ers in L.A., Are you going to take the upset in this one, Mr. Bear
100%.
Because I'm going with the Rams.
49ers are going to beat the Rams. 100%. 49ers will beat the Rams in this game. They have not won a single away game this year, but this is it. You know, and you bring it up. They could have beaten Chicago at Chicago.
If Mullen wasn't an idiot.
Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't at Chicago. That was in Candlestick.
Yeah. Santa Clara. It's a new stadium
Not
now.
Candlestick.
Yeah.
They beat the Seattle Seahawks, who you were raving about earlier in this podcast. They beat the Denver Broncos, who at the very least have a good defense.
I could see them getting a win. I just don't think it'll happen.
And then you look at the Rams, who they beat the Arizona Cardinals, but congrats on that one. Really exciting.
You got them chutted.
Right? They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles with their backup quarterback, who happens to be a Super Bowl MVP, so I will give him some credit. They lost to Chicago when Chicago's like, hey, anybody interested in knowing how to beat the Rams? This is how you do it. And then they had that game where they beat Detroit. So when you just look at these last 4 games, I'm going to ignore the Kansas City game because that one, when you look at the rest of them, looks like a big anomaly. This Rams team is not what they were before. This is another one where I can easily see McVay, if the 49ers put up a fight and the 49ers are actually doing things, I can see McVay doing the exact same thing, saying, we have enough injuries. We're going to live to see another day. Let's just let them have it. And
both the Bears and the Rams are in sticky situations because if they do that, they're basically...
And they play at the same time.
For the Bears, and I'm thinking about this now, would they play the whole way through? Unless it's like a for sure, yeah, we're not going to win. But if there's even a sliver of a chance because they're still fighting for that bye, I could see the Rams maybe a coach up in the booth, kind of score watching that Bears game, and then, all right, news is the Bears are going to lose that game. Hey, McVay, let's start pulling the starters. Bears are going to lose.
I think that the Rams, more than the Bears, really cannot afford one more injury. If that offense gets one more injury, this Ram team they're gonna be out. They're gonna be one and done in the playoffs. The Chicago Bears defense and because that's the big thing too. It's the offense of the Rams. Offenses go down with one player a lot faster than defenses go down with one player. I mean, the Bears have had 2 huge injuries to their secondary, with Callahan and Eddie Jackson being injured at the moment, although he'll be back for the playoffs. But next man up does perfectly fine. You barely even notice the guy's gone. You know, you have these type of success with that defense. It's very different with the offense. Running back goes down or wide receiver goes down. Where is this explosive Rams offense? McVay, I think, is more likely to say, let me live and see another day. Even if it isn't a first-round bye, we're in the playoffs as well. That's all that matters. We're in the playoffs, and they could be sitting there saying, we've already beat the Vikings. We can do it again.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think the Rams get the win. They're going to beat the 49ers. 49ers will lock up the second pick in the NFL draft. The Rams will lock up the second seed in the NFC playoff standings. And then, yet again, a game that is going to be key to the playoff situations. Can the Bengals upset the Steelers?
Let's talk about this for a second.
And knock the Steelers out of the playoffs.
Let's talk about all the disrespect coming to the Cincinnati Bengals here. Everyone's like, oh, the Browns. The Browns have a chance to knock one of their divisional opponents off. So do the Bengals. The Bengals can do the same thing. The Bengals can say, screw you, Steelers. Go home. They can easily do that themselves.
I don't think it happens, though,
no,
because of how the Bengals have looked
But I just want some respect to be given to the Cincinnati Bengals for that.
Put some respect on that name? Is that what you're doing?
Exactly. Like, but yeah, Steelers, I'm going to
This is a Bengal team that...
They don't have their quarterback.
I know that, but since they played the Dolphins and won that game, they've only won 2 games since then.
They're playing what, Jeff Driscoll right now?
Yeah, I believe so. But they have really... They lost twice, and I know that it's a different team. But I'm going to put some respect on Cincinnati's name by putting some disrespect on someone else's. They lost twice to the Browns. Yeah, I know that was without Andy Dalton.
Yeah, but the Browns are a good team right now.
I know, I get that.
You can't say the Browns are a good team. Oh, but you lost to the Browns. No, the Browns are either good or they're bad.
I expected the Bengals to get 1 win against the Browns this year.
But the Browns are a good team.
I know they didn't have Andy Dalton. I know Bengal fans are going to get mad that I say that and then say the other thing. But yeah, I'm going with the Steelers to win this one. Although I wouldn't be mad if the Bengals won. I wouldn't be mad because if the Steelers don't make the play here, I'll ask you this: if the Steelers don't make the playoffs, because I've always been a guy that's kind of the back of the room. Hey, maybe we should fire Mike Tomlin. Yeah, although I'm not a Steeler fan.
No, Mike Tomlin's not on the hot seat.
If they don't make the playoffs, do more people start maybe thinking that? Like, hey, maybe we should move on.
I mean, more people, sure. A few more people in the room might, but he's not getting fired.
Moving on, a game that means literally nothing because the Cardinals are number 1 in the draft. And they'll lose this game and lock it up. The Seahawks can lose and still will be the 5th seed. Seahawks beat the Cardinals, right?
Yep, Seahawks.
And then we've got a game that the Eagles need to win. They're a touchdown favorite against the Redskins.
As they should be.
Do they get their win in Landover?
Definitely. I mean, you're on quarterback like 3 or 4 right now for the Washington Redskins.
I know.
Nick Foles is riding hot again. He's like, oh, that's right. I'm a Super Bowl MVP. Let me go out there and play like one. Philadelphia Eagles got everything they need right now.
I would love for the Redskins to play up, but the Eagles are going to win this one. The Vikings' only way to get into the playoffs is to beat the Bears.
They have to beat the Bears.
They have to beat the Bears, which I will say at the beginning of the year, if you asked me which game I was more confident in the Vikings winning, I even said in our predictions, I could see the Bears winning at home and the Vikings winning at home, but the
divisional
Eagles
games
will win here. And then our last late afternoon game,
these are
Browns
the good ones.
and Ravens. Who wins this, and do the Ravens lock up their division?
I'm saying the Ravens. I mean, you're going to have this tough battle between
Baker and Lamar.
Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson.
Which I'll throw it out again. Dallas, our patron, said that he messaged us on Patreon and said, I just want to say, I said Lamar Jackson should have been drafted above Baker. He's like, just saying.
There's a lot of good things going on for Cleveland right now, and a lot of people playing hard, but there's also people playing just as hard, if not harder, in Baltimore because they want this playoff spot. Cleveland's out of the playoff race for sure. This is an interesting one. If it was at home, I would pick the Cleveland Browns, but it's not. It's in Baltimore. I'm going to have to ride with that. Probably the second best defense in the NFL right now. And Lamar Jackson's on fire. They made that quarterback switch at just right at the right time to rejuvenate that team. So I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, it's like I mentioned to you before the podcast, exactly that. It was like this Ravens team was kind of like, oh, man, they're going to kind of limp their way either into the playoffs or out of the playoffs. And even early on when they were 4-5, I was sitting there going, hey, maybe I'm right about this this Baltimore team that I didn't have make the playoffs. I knew that Joe Flacco was not going to be enough, but they're not going to pull the trigger on Lamar yet. And then they proved me wrong by pulling the trigger on Lamar. And ever since that bye week, Lamar has only
pulled the trigger because Joe got injured.
Well, yeah, but they pulled the trigger, and Lamar Jackson's only lost one game, which was an overtime game, to the Chiefs. So, I mean, I expect the Ravens to get the win over the Browns in this one. And then the very last one, Colts and Titans, the Sunday night game. I called it last week, but really it was an easy game to call, being the flex game, because winner stays, and our winner gets into the playoff, loser does not.
Gets a nice spot on the couch.
I am going with Shane O'Mac and his team. I'm going with the Colts to get the win in Nashville. They have been straight spitting fire since starting, 1-5 this year. I expect this Colts team to be ready. Frank Reich should be, well, he won't
coach of the year,
but should be coach of the year for this team and the turnaround that they have had, but they'll probably give it to like Sean Payton or Andy Reid or somebody. But
no, it's going to go to Matt Nagy.
Frank Reich should be that award goes to John Gruden. John Gruden gets executive of the year for both the Bears and the Cowboys.
Matt Nagy's not an executive, though.
Playoff team. Yeah, but I mean, Ryan Pace,
Matt Nagy's coach of the year.
John Gruden gets executive of the year is basically my joke.
I
expect the Colts.
I'm just not letting you put any diss on the Bears.
It'll be a close one, maybe like a touchdown game. The Colts and Frank Reich get into the playoffs.
Here's
Mike
the thing.
Vrabel and the Titans do not.
Home game for the Titans, and I think they'll play decently, but I don't think
it's going to be close. It's going to be tough.
I actually don't think it's going to be close. I think that Indianapolis is going to go ahead and win this thing.
Oh, okay.
They're going to say, hey, I just want you all to know.
Which is weird because beginning of the year, you had the Titans and I had the Colts.
But here's the thing. The season happened.
I know.
The season happened then. And you know what, though? We need to give some respect. The Titans have been really, really good at home. The Colts have not been amazing away.
Derrick Henry has been looking like Alabama Derrick Henry.
He sure has. But the Colts, they figured out their run game. Andrew Luck, as he always is.
Marlon Mack, man. Like, he's turned it on.
Andrew Luck, for a guy who had a rough beginning coming off this injury, having to shake that off, he's going to throw for 4,500 yards at the end of this season. Pretty close to 40 touchdowns in the year. They're doing everything they need to do. It's just one of those games where I look at each position. I say, quarterback, Colts. Running back, probably a little bit of a push. Receiving, Colts. There's not much that I'm going to go over here and say, yeah, the Titans got that one. The advantage they have is it's at home, but I still think that that trip from Indianapolis to Nashville takes you about 5 hours at most. It's not a far trip. You can travel. Colts will have their fans there. They will be okay, and I think they're going to win this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts as well. They're going to make the playoffs. The Titans will not, and it will be a heartbreaker for the Titans. I think it'll be close. I'm going to say touchdown game. So, Titan fans, I know we have a contingency of Titan Nation that do watch our podcast, watch the picks each and every week, and let us know what their team's going to do. I think it'll be close. I just like the Colts a little bit more.
Let's also put it out there that Marcus Mariota is not even 100% that he's going to play.
So, I mean, if he doesn't, that could affect this game. Any final thoughts about anything you want to mention going into Week 17?
Just want to put it out there that if anyone was keeping score at home, Bears get a first-round bye, Vikings get knocked out of the playoffs, and the Eagles are your number 6 seed, according to my predictions.
For you, for me, it'll be Bears don't because they lost. Vikings.
Yours is everything stays the same.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
You're right, because the Ravens won, the Colts won, Vikings won, Rams won. Yeah,
my NFC had a little bit of a shakeup.
The only thing I'm going to say is next week, what's going on in my head, and this is according to you too, if you like these or not. Some of the teams I'm thinking, barring if everything stays status quo and the Colts and Ravens win and the Chargers stay at 5. I'm thinking the 3 teams we're probably going to talk about next week are the Chargers, Ravens, and Colts going into the playoffs.
Maybe.
Because
time will tell.
I look at the NFC and I'm like, man, I just don't see any sexy topics.
Well, we're going to talk about everybody because we're going to go through the predictions.
And the predictions, but I'm saying like our main focus is right now.
Just don't want anybody to feel like their team is getting
in our head. No, of course not. We look at all of them. But thank you guys for checking out the podcast. It's been a good one. Talked a little draft on this one. Talked a little trade rumors. Looked at a little playoff picks. We talked about playoffs with the Seahawks. Make sure to go and hit that subscribe button. Support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/most valuable podcast. You can also get yourself a t-shirt down in the description. You can get it at mostvaluablepodcast.com. The thing I didn't do at the beginning of the podcast, and I'm going to do right now, is I do this on the Primetime Podcast.
You introduce it this way every time, too.
Do I?
Yeah,
do I do it?
I do this on the Primetime Podcast. I like this idea.
I keep forgetting that I do it on this podcast, too. Still only one review written down from January 28th, and it was King B. Lang, said, great show, gave us 5 stars. Good all-around podcast, would recommend to any football fan. So if you want your comment read on the podcast, go ahead and rate and review the Onside Kick on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. But thank you guys for checking it out, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on podcast services around the world. Mark and I will be back next week for some playoff action. And as always, have a good day, everybody.